I saw a man praying in the middle of Times Square. People rushing by, screens flashing, taxis honking, and there he was, calm, still, kneeling on the sidewalk. In that chaos, that noise, that sensory overload, he found peace. He wasn't performing, he wasn't looking around, he just faced a direction and bowed. Like the whole world disappeared except for one purpose. And no one noticed. That hit me. I stood there thinking, how? How does someone carry that much presence, that kind of conviction, in a world so loud, so distracted, so detached? I started asking myself questions I hadn't in a while. Why is it that in a society addicted to comfort and convenience, this guy right here looked freer than anyone else? It made me wonder, what are we missing? What does Islam teach that's producing this kind of discipline, this kind of peace, right in the middle of madness? I remember this kid from high school, quiet, kind of reserved, but everyone just knew he was going to be a priest. Even back then, we called him father as a joke, but it wasn't really a joke. It was like, yeah, that's his path. No one questioned it. He was deeply into the faith from the start. Fast forward a few years, he joins the priesthood, becomes exactly what we all saw coming. But then, just like that, he leaves. Not because he stopped believing, not because he got caught in some scandal. He was still the same guy. Still gay. Still thoughtful. Still spiritual. But he couldn't take how the church kept changing. That's what got him. He said, they're changing too much. And that line stuck with me. Because when the rules shift with every breeze of culture, what's left to anchor you? The Catholic Church, man, it used to feel like this immovable force. You knew what it stood for. Right, wrong, sin, sacrifice. Lent was the serious thing. My mom growing up, she had these strict rules. No meat on Fridays, no sweets, no television, you name it. We had to give something up. And it mattered. It meant something. It trained you in discipline, in self-denial. It was hard, but that was the point. But now, Lent feels like a suggestion. You talk to kids today about it, and they look at you like you're crazy. Wait, I can't have pizza? Why would I do that? There's no bite to it anymore. It's soft. It's become this casual, watered-down experience that barely resembles what it was. And that's the problem with religion in the West. It's gotten too comfortable trying to please everyone. It's like a brand now, always tweaking the message to stay relevant, like it's chasing likes instead of leading lives. But when a religion bends to trends, it loses its backbone. It becomes more about optics than obedience, more about approval than accountability. That's why Islam stands out to me. It doesn't chase culture, it calls you higher. Ramadan, for example. No food, no water, from sunrise to sunset, no compromise. It's not easy, and that's exactly the point. It demands something from you. And that kind of structure, that kind of consistency, that's rare today, especially when everything else in life feels like it's up for negotiation. There's something powerful about a faith that says, this is who we are. This is what we do. You can come or not, but we're not changing. That kind of clarity in today's world, that's strength. I'll never forget this moment in downtown Austin. We're driving, sun's going down, traffic's buzzing, the city's alive like usual, and then I glance over and see this guy in an alleyway. Not shady, not loitering. He's praying. Just laid down his mat on the pavement, facing the right direction, in the middle of all this chaos, just focused. Locked in, no mosque, no quiet room, no perfect setting, just a sliver of concrete between buildings, and that was enough for him. He didn't care who was watching. He didn't care if it was weird or inconvenient. He had something more important to do, and right there, in the noise and hustle of everyday life, he dropped into stillness like it was second nature. Same thing happened in New York. I was in Times Square, one of the loudest, most overstimulating places on the planet. Giant screens, blaring ads, people taking selfies, street performers dressed like Spider-Man, smoke rising from subway grates. It's sensory overload. And there he was. One guy, tucked just behind a pillar, on his knees, forehead to the ground, praying, quiet, focused, right on time. And I thought, damn, that's something. That's real commitment. That's not cultural. That's not performative. That's someone whose internal compass is so strong that even in the most chaotic environments, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't delay. He doesn't compromise. When it's time to pray, he prays. And it hit me, how rare is that kind of discipline today? Most of us won't even silence our phones during dinner. We won't leave the house without checking 5 apps first. People are glued to their screens like it's oxygen. They're scrolling TikTok, vaping, watching Netflix, getting lost in a loop of constant stimulation. And here's this guy breaking the loop entirely. No headphones, no distractions, just presence. That's the kind of centeredness we're all starving for but can't seem to touch. We talk about mindfulness. We download meditation apps. We light candles and call it spirituality. But this guy? He's actually living it. 5 times a day, no matter where he is, he hits pause on the world to reconnect with something bigger. That's not just religion. That's rhythm. That's purpose. That's someone who's trained their will to override their surroundings. It made me wonder, when was the last time I stopped everything just to breathe? Not because a wellness coach told me to, not because an app pinged me, but because my soul needed it. There's something powerful about a person who won't wait for the world to be convenient to do what matters. That kind of devotion in public, that's not weakness, that's strength. You want to talk about strength? Let's talk about Islam. Not headlines, not politics, just the core structure, what it asks of you every day. Because I think a lot of people look at it from the outside and just see rituals or rules. But when you really look at what Islam is built on, prayer, fasting, intention, it's one of the most disciplined systems I've ever seen. And I've talked to Navy SEALs, elite athletes, monks, you name it. But this is a daily grind with meaning. Let's start with prayer. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, 5 times a day, every single day, from the moment the sun rises to when it sets. Whether you're at home, at work, stuck in traffic, in a hotel room, in the middle of the street, it doesn't matter. You stop, you face the direction of Mecca, and you pray. And it's not just a quick thank you or a mental note to the universe. It's physical. You bow, you put your forehead to the ground, you recite, you realign over and over. That kind of structure, it rewires you. It teaches your mind to show up, even when your body doesn't want to, even when the world's going 100 miles an hour. Then there's fasting, not skipping breakfast, not intermittent fasting because it's trending. I'm talking about Ramadan, a whole month, no food, no water, from sunrise to sunset. Think about that. No water, not even a sip, not even gum. In the middle of summer, while you're working, commuting, parenting, studying, living real life, that's not a diet. That's devotion. And it's all done in silence. No one boasts about it. No one's asking for a medal. They just do it. Millions of people, quietly, consistently together. That's what gets me. That unity in voluntary hardship. It's not just about individual will. It's collective. The whole world fasting at the same time for a higher purpose. You don't do that unless you believe in something deeper. You don't endure that kind of physical strain without a powerful why. And that's what I respect most. Islam ties everything back to intention. You're not just performing tasks. You're purifying your intent. Every action becomes a choice. Are you doing this for ego or for something bigger? And look, this isn't about being perfect. Muslims aren't claiming to be better than anyone. They slip, they struggle, just like the rest of us. But the difference is they come back to the mat, to the fast, to the intention every single day. That kind of resilience, that's rare. That's strength, real strength. You know, the strongest people I've seen in my life aren't the loudest. They're not the ones yelling on social media, flexing in the gym, or debating endlessly about truth. They're the ones who pray while the world mocks them. They kneel while others scroll. They stay grounded while everything around them is shaking. And I'm not Muslim. I'm not here to preach. But I know courage when I see it. And there is something powerful about a belief system that asks more of you, not less. That doesn't bend with trends. That doesn't care if it's popular. It just stands. Quiet, solid, like stone in a storm. Islam's not trying to impress you. It's trying to shape you. And in a world that's constantly telling you to take the easy way out, to indulge, to escape, maybe we need a little more of what it's offering. Structure, discipline, and a reason to get up and fight the chaos with purpose. Man, let's be honest, something's going wrong in the West. We've got comfort, we've got abundance, we've got more entertainment, food, and technology than we know what to do with. But what we don't have anymore, a spine. We've become soft. And I'm not just talking about physical softness, though let's face it, that's part of it too. I'm talking about this obsession with comfort, with constant pleasure, with being told that everything you want is okay, and nothing you do is wrong. We've traded conviction for convenience. You can see it everywhere. People are addicted to ease. They'll DoorDash their coffee from a place 2 blocks away. They'll scroll TikTok for 3 hours and call it rest. They'll binge outrage on the internet, hashtag this, boycott that, but won't take 5 minutes to reflect on what they actually believe. And don't get me started on algorithm-driven outrage. The system literally profits off your attention, so it keeps you angry, keeps you distracted, keeps you shallow. It doesn't care about truth. It wants clicks. The more you scream, the more it feeds you things to scream about. It's like we're all in a cage match of who's more offended. Meanwhile, somewhere in the world, a dude is in an alleyway in 105-degree heat praying on the pavement. While you're arguing about who misgendered who on Twitter, he's facing Mecca with his forehead in the dust. That's the contrast. We wave a cross in the air, they hit their knees in the street. And I'm not saying one's better or worse. I'm saying one is still alive. Look at Canada. I used to love Canada. Great people, beautiful country. But now, it's like they've lost the plot. Free speech is on life support. Every week, there's some new law telling you what words you can't say or what views you're not allowed to have. Religion? It's disappearing. Morality? That's now whatever the government says it is this month. You've got a society that's terrified of offense, addicted to comfort, and allergic to hardship. We're raising generations who think discipline is toxic and identity is whatever the algorithm spits out that day. And we wonder why mental health is falling off a cliff. Here's the thing. We've got opinions, but we've lost convictions. We know how to talk, argue, debate, but we forgot how to live what we believe. We'll tweet our outrage, post our beliefs on Instagram, but when it's time to stand up, to sacrifice something, to choose purpose over pleasure, we fold, we distract, we scroll. And the problem with losing your backbone is you can't carry anything. You can't carry your community, your family, your beliefs, or yourself. The wind blows and you go with it. That's what I see in contrast with Islam. It's not trending. It's not rebranding. It's not watering down its message to get more likes. It's standing still while everything else is shifting. And people feel that. That's why you see conversions. That's why you see respect even from outsiders. Because when the world is chaos, people crave something solid. I'm not saying the West is doomed, but we better start asking some hard questions. Are we living like what we believe actually matters, or are we just talking ourselves into oblivion? Discipline, conviction, faith. These things aren't outdated. They're what holds you up when the storm comes, because the storm is already here. You want to talk about willpower, discipline, real structure? Look at the rituals in Islam, especially Ramadan and the daily prayers. That's not just belief. That's training. That's a system for building the strongest version of yourself, not once a year, but every single day. Let's start with Ramadan. Think about what's actually happening. For an entire month, over 1 billion people around the world are fasting. No food, no water, not from 9 to 5. From sunrise to sunset. It doesn't matter if you're in a New York office or walking through the desert. If you're fasting, you're fasting. That's not a suggestion. That's commitment. And it's happening in sync, globally, everywhere. You want to talk about the power of shared momentum? Imagine logging onto the internet and knowing people in Cairo, Jakarta, London, Lagos, and LA are all doing the same act of discipline together. That's unity. That's spiritual focus at scale. But it's more than not eating. It's about mastering the self. You don't just give up food. You give up gossip, anger, ego. You train your soul to pause before it reacts. And in that space between impulse and action, that's where growth lives. That's where you become someone who can lead, serve, endure. And then there's prayer 5 times a day, set times. No matter what you're doing, working, driving, chilling, grinding, you stop, you face Mecca, you bow, you breathe. You align your body with your soul. That's not random. That's rhythm. That's ritual. That's structure. People say, oh, religion is just about control. But maybe it's about something deeper. Maybe it's about freedom. Freedom from your lower self. From your addiction to comfort, your distractions, your ego. These rituals aren't cages. They're scaffolding. They hold you up when the world around you is falling apart. Look, if you don't anchor your day owns you. You wake up, grab your phone, scroll through junk, react to nonsense, and never take a second to check in with your deeper self. But when your day has sacred points, built-in moments of stillness, you're not floating. You're centered. That's the genius of rituals. They're like reps for your soul. You keep showing up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And eventually, something shifts. You don't break as easily. You don't fall for every temptation. You're not just surviving. You're building something deeper, something that lasts. That's what Islam gets right. In a world where attention is shattered and values are flexible, it says, stop, reflect, discipline yourself. And honestly, that's not just religious advice. That's how you become powerful. We throw around the word strength a lot these days. We think it's about who's loudest, who's trending, who can shout down the other side in a debate, or go viral with some take that burns hot for 24 hours and disappears just as fast. But let me tell you something I've learned from watching, from traveling, from talking to people, from just observing what actually endures. Real strength is quiet. Real strength is consistent. Real strength doesn't need applause. When I look at Islam, just from the outside, as an observer, I don't see a religion that's trying to impress people. It's not chasing the next cultural trend. It's not trying to win a popularity contest. It's anchored. The practices, the prayer, the fasting, the direction, It hasn't changed in over 1,000 years. In a world that reinvents itself every 10 minutes, that kind of consistency is power. Think about it. The same call to prayer you hear today in Istanbul or Jakarta or in the streets of Toronto, that same rhythm, that same language, that same act was done by people over a millennium ago. That's not fragility, that's resilience. That's a foundation. Now contrast that with what's happening in the West. Everything's negotiable, everything's customizable, even your own identity changes based on how you feel today. And I get it, freedom is important, but when everything is up for debate, when there's no structure, no backbone, what are you really building? There's this idea floating around that evolving constantly is strength, but maybe that's just adaptation out of fear, out of pressure. Strength isn't about bending every time the wind blows. Strength is standing tall, especially when it would be easier to just go along. I've seen it in the little things. A Muslim man stepping away from work to go pray, while everyone else keeps typing, scrolling, whatever. He's not performing. He's obeying something higher. That's inner strength. That's discipline. That doesn't ask for your approval. We've started admiring noise instead of endurance. But look around. Who are the people actually living their values, not just talking about them? Who's consistent when no one's watching? Who's raising kids that carry that same commitment forward? That's what I'm realizing more and more. You don't need to agree with everything in a religion to admire its spine. And Islam? It's got one. It doesn't apologize for having structure. It doesn't water down belief just to fit in. And there's something powerful in that. Something people deep down are starving for. So here's the question. Are you building your strength on a foundation or just floating with whatever's popular today? Because when the storm hits, only one of those stands. I keep going back to that image, this man praying in the middle of Times Square. Chaos all around him. People rushing, screens flashing, taxis honking. And there he was, still, grounded, calm. That's what stuck with me. In a world full of distraction, that man had direction. So, I ask you, what are you built on? What's your anchor when everything around you is shaking? See, the thing is, we all need something that holds us steady. Not just when life is easy, but when it's hard, when it's lonely, when you're tested. And we live in a time where it's way too easy to drift. We're pulled in 1,000 directions. Click here, scroll that, buy this, believe that, and if you're not grounded, you'll fall for anything. That's why I've started to appreciate religion, not as dogma, but as discipline, not as blind belief, but as structure, as something that trains you to stand. And man, I've got to say, Islam in particular, it builds people to last, not for likes, not for trends, but for life, for storms, for real pressure. And no, I'm not saying you have to convert or change your beliefs. That's not the point. The point is, do you even have something you're committed to like that? Do you believe in anything that deeply? Something that keeps you showing up when it's uncomfortable, when it's unpopular, when no one else understands? Because that's what we're missing today. Conviction, patience, purpose. We talk a lot about freedom, but freedom without discipline is chaos. And I think a lot of people are feeling that deep down. We're free, but we're floating. So ask yourself, what are you building? Are you building strength, integrity, patience, or are you just reacting to whatever the algorithm throws at you next? That man praying in public didn't need permission. He didn't need an audience. He just needed direction. That's something to respect. And maybe, just maybe, something to learn from. You don't need to be Muslim, but you do need something solid to stand on. Something that keeps you grounded when everything else spins. Because life isn't asking you to be perfect, but it is asking you to be real. And real people don't just drift. They decide, they commit, they build. So here's my question to close this out. What are you building yourself on? And when the pressure comes, will it stand?